On a freezing October night in Aurora, Colorado, while mountain winds howled through the empty streets, a young man working the night shift at a small roadside gas station accidentally stepped into a turning point in his life. He helped a stranger, a woman in desperate need, who didn't have enough money for gas to get home with her young child sleeping soundly in the back seat. That act of kindness lasted only a few minutes, but it did not escape the eyes of his ruthless manager. Without listening to a single explanation, the man fired him on the spot, despite the fact that he had done absolutely nothing wrong. After years of giving everything he had, working overtime, swapping shifts, sacrificing countless things just to keep the job, he found himself walking home in silence, unemployed, filled with regret and tightness in his chest. Yet, deep down, still knowing he had done the right thing. What he didn't expect was, fate was preparing a gift he had never dared to dream of. Because the next morning, a sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom suddenly stopped in front of his worn-down house, carrying an opportunity unlike any other, one powerful enough to change the lives of both him and his young child. If you enjoy stories like this, stories about life, about people, about kindness being repaid, hit follow so you won't miss the tales we share every day. But the real question is, who exactly was the woman from last night? And why did a Rolls-Royce show up at his doorstep the very next morning? Matthew Clarke once believed in one very simple thing. If he worked hard, life would eventually get better. At 28, he stood behind the counter of the Rocky Mountain gas station, a small stop right off the I-70 highway, working tirelessly every night to raise his little daughter and pay off the massive debts he had never even created. Unlike his peers who were still enjoying their carefree youth, Matthew moved from shift to shift, working while also being a father, taking care of Ella, his 6-year-old daughter with curly brown hair and a smile sweet as the morning sun. Matthew had dreams, though not grand ones. He just wished that one day he wouldn't have to count every last dollar, or worry whether he would have enough money to buy milk for his daughter that week. But for now, he accepted the quiet rhythm of his night shifts. He knew every regular customer, the truck drivers who needed coffee made just the way they liked it, the nurses stopping by before a long night shift, the factory workers grabbing a quick snack before heading onto the production line. He learned kindness from his mother, a woman who worked 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. And then, everything changed when he met Rebecca. 7 years earlier, Matthew, then only 21, was full of hope for the future. He met Rebecca at a local bar. She was beautiful, energetic, and loved talking about big dreams. They fell in love quickly, marrying just 6 months later. A year after that, Ella was born, the baby with big round blue eyes that melted Matthew's heart every time he looked at her. In the beginning, life was still okay. Rebecca worked part-time and Matthew worked full-time at the gas station. They weren't wealthy, but they had each other. Then everything began to fall apart. Matthew slowly noticed the changes, Rebecca coming home later, guarding her phone closely, and most importantly, money disappearing without a trace. At first, it was only $50, $100. He assumed she bought things for herself or for Ella. But then the amounts became $500, $1,000. The credit cards were maxed out. Calls from debt collectors came endlessly. One night, Matthew followed her, and his heart shattered when he saw Rebecca walk into a casino on the outskirts of town. He sat in the car, watching neon lights flicker across his face, feeling as if his entire world was collapsing. When confronted, Rebecca didn't deny it. She cried, promised to change. And Matthew believed her. He always believed her, but promises broke even faster than they were spoken. In the next 3 years, Rebecca sank deeper into gambling. She borrowed money from dangerous people. She pawned Matthew's mother's bracelet, the only thing of hers he still had. Every dollar Matthew worked so hard to earn vanished into the bottomless pit, called "Just One Last Time, Baby." I promise." Ella was only 4 at the time. She began asking, "Daddy, why isn't Mommy home?" Matthew froze. How could he tell the truth to a child who only knew how to draw flowers and sleep with her teddy bear? Until the fateful night 2 years ago. Matthew came home after a night shift, his body so exhausted that his hands trembled as he held the keys. But when he opened the door, he froze. The apartment was empty. Not the kind of empty when someone steps out for a moment, but empty as if a storm had swept through. Rebecca's closet was stripped bare. Jewelry, shoes, everything gone. On the kitchen table lay a simple note. "Matthew, I'm sorry. I can't keep going. The debt is too big. They will find me. I don't want to drag you and Ella into this. Please forgive me. Rebecca." Matthew's hands shook. He collapsed to the floor, clutching the note, and, for the first time since his mother died, he cried. Not because he lost Rebecca, but because from that moment on, he alone had to face $77,000 in debt. Credit card debt, bank loans, and debts owed to organizations he had never even heard of. And Ella, the little girl sleeping peacefully in the next room, unaware that her life had just taken a turn that would change it forever. 2 years passed. Matthew had grown used to being a single father. He worked 60 to 70 hours a week to raise his daughter and pay his debts. Each month, he paid $1,200 toward the loans, $800 for rent, and the rest went to food, utilities, and Ella's school expenses. Numbers piling up like a mountain that never seemed to shrink. Fortunately, Mrs. Keaton, the 65-year-old neighbor, was an angel to Matthew and his daughter. She watched Ella whenever he worked the night shift, sometimes bringing over a pot of soup or a tray of lasagna with her usual line, "I made too much, Matthew. Don't let it go to waste." Matthew knew she never made too much, but he also knew he was in no position to refuse anyone's kindness. He once had dreams, going to college, studying engineering, or business. But now, his only dream was for Ella to grow up in a stable home where she wouldn't have to worry the way he once did. His co-workers at the gas station knew his story. They respected him because he never complained, never arrived late, never refused a hard shift. But lately, everything had grown suffocating. The Rocky Mountain gas station had just been bought out by Falcon Energy, a corporation that cared only about profit. Darren Cole, the new regional manager, immediately installed cameras everywhere, monitored employees 24/7, and enforced heartless rules. No giveaways, no helping customers, no exceptions. This is business, not charity. Matthew hated those rules, but he needed the job, so he kept his head down and tried to live within the lines. Until that fateful night. It was a cold October night, the kind of cold that seeped through jackets and sank straight into the bone. The gas station was quiet, with only the occasional car wobbling in. Matthew was rearranging the shelves when an old Honda Accord crept into the parking lot, its headlights dim and its engine wheezing as if one more sneeze would shut it down for good. Something made him pause. The woman behind the wheel looked exhausted, so drained that even the harsh gas station lights couldn't hide the fatigue in her eyes. Her hands tightened around the steering wheel before she stepped out. Matthew noticed her clothes. They had once been expensive, but now looked wrinkled and out of place against the beat-up car. But what caught in Matthew's throat was the child sleeping in the back seat, curled under a blanket far too thin for the biting Colorado cold. The woman walked in, hesitant, clutching her purse as if it were the last thing she owned. Matthew offered a polite smile. "Good evening, ma'am. How can I help you?" She hesitated for a long moment before speaking, her voice quiet, as if afraid someone might hear. "I need to get to Denver, but I only have $15. How much gas? Does that buy me?" Matthew did the math instantly. $15 wouldn't even get her halfway. He glanced at the child again, something tightening in his chest. "How much do you need?" he asked gently. The woman swallowed, shame burning in her eyes. $30 will get me home. She let out a shaky breath. I tried 3 other gas stations. No one would help. In that moment, Matthew stood on a dangerous line. He knew Darren Cole was watching through the cameras. He knew the policy. He knew the consequences. But then he looked at the sleeping child. And he remembered Ella. He remembered the nights Rebecca disappeared, leaving him and their daughter without enough money for food. He remembered the desperation of counting coins, praying they were enough for gas to get to work. He remembered Mrs. Keaton, the woman who quietly left grocery bags at his door without ever asking for thanks. Matthew's fingers trembled as he opened his wallet. He pulled out the only $20 bill he had left, the money he'd saved to buy Ella fever medicine that weekend. Don't worry, he said softly but firmly. I'll cover the rest. The woman's eyes widened in disbelief. I can't let you do that. It's only $15, Matthew reassured her with a small smile. When you can, pass it on to someone else. For a moment, she stood completely still, as if the weight of the world had just slipped off her shoulders. Then her eyes filled with grateful tears. Thank you, she whispered, her voice breaking. Matthew simply nodded and walked outside to pump the gas himself. As he worked, he stole another glance at the sleeping child, the tiny chest rising and falling gently, blissfully unaware of the chaos the adults were enduring. No child should have to carry burdens like these, he thought. And he had no idea that in just a few minutes his entire world would flip upside down. When Matthew finished filling the tank, he saw the woman adjusting the blanket around her child, her fingers trembling as she murmured another thank you. Matthew smiled and waved, watching the old Honda disappear into the night. He exhaled, feeling a strange warmth spread through his chest, even as the cold bit at his skin. It wasn't much, just $15, but it was enough to get that mother and child home safely.